Hospital doctors and nurses always expect the unexpected.
Let's see how they fix our first patient.
In Manchester, the emergency department have a new admission. 13-year-old Reese, who's come in with a badly battered face.
I damaged my forehead and my nose and my lip there.
You can say that again. I'm amazed you can even speak.
It's hard to smile because my lips like falling and I can't move it up.
I'd just keep a straight face, Reese.
So how on earth did you end up like that?
Well, what happened was,
Lovely balloons.
Reese was celebrating his cousin's birthday party at the local bike park. He was on a half-pipe, doing his thing. The crowd were loving it, so he set off for the big one.
That's a steep slope. Nice big stadium too. No pressure, Reese.
He set off, but the slope was so steep, and Reese tried to stop. He pulled on his brake, but he did it too hard, and the next thing he knew, he flew over the handlebars.
Oh dear, no more bike.
Yep, he went flying through the air until he landed smack on his face.
Ouch!
Luckily, Reese was wearing a helmet, and his injuries aren't as bad as they look, but it's still pretty uncomfortable.
I find it very hard to eat and everything because my tongue's very swollen.
Well, there's definitely no chance of getting your mouth around a burger right now, that's for sure.
Reese was treated just after the accident, but now he's back in hospital to get his wounds checked out and find out if he'll need any more treatment.
And the man doing the finding out is Professor Kevin Macway-Jones.
Well, we need to take the dressings down, have a really good look at his wounds and make sure they're not infected. Then we need to decide exactly what dressings need to be put on there and whether there's any surgery that needs to be done immediately or whether that can wait for later if it's needed at all.
First things first, Nurse Michael needs to get those dressings off.
I'm going to take the dressings off and see what everything looks like underneath. Is that okay?
Although it looks nasty, swelling is part of the body's healing process.
When you're injured, chemicals are released which cause our blood vessels to widen. This allows more blood and infection-fighting cells to get to the injured area, but some of them leak into the surrounding tissue, causing the whole area to swell up. Just like Reese's lip.
So with the dressing off, how's it looking?
The one at the top is healing well. Yeah, the one over your nose is healing well. The one up above your lip, okay, that's a little bit deeper. So I think what we need to do is redress it. We'll bring you back to clinic so that we can see how it's doing and we'll make a decision when you come back to clinic next time.
Although his nose and forehead can be left dressing-free, Reese's lip still needs to be covered.
And he'll have to come back in 2 weeks' time when the swelling's gone down to see if surgery is necessary.
I just can't wait to get back to normal because I need to get back eating again.
Fingers crossed some decent food will be on the cards soon, mate.
We'll be back to find out what happens with Reese's lip later on.
I think I can hear his stomach rumbling. And now to our lab, where we put our bodies to the test to show you how your body works.
That really hurt.
Just don't try anything like this at home.
Today, we're looking at our blood.
This is blood. It's not human blood, but it's almost exactly the same.
Now, without blood, you'd be dead. That's because your organs need blood every second of the day to keep them working.
So if someone's had an accident, the most important thing to do is stop the bleeding.
Blood isn't just a liquid, it's actually full of red blood cells, and your body makes 2 million new red blood cells every second.
And all these blood cells have a really important job. They carry oxygen from your lungs to all the cells in your body.
When you breathe in air, it goes straight to your lungs and travels through little sacs called alveoli, and it's their job to transfer all the oxygen to your blood.
When it goes into the lungs, it's this very dark, almost black reddish colour. When it leaves the lungs, it changes colour and becomes a very bright red.
Look at this vein in my hand. It looks bluish because it's full of dark-coloured blood that hasn't been to the lungs yet.
I can show you the direction of flow in these veins. If I squeeze the blood out of this one, you see I've made it disappear, and then you can watch it refill from this end.
And now it's on its way to get oxygen from the lungs, where it will change colour.
Nice, isn't it? I can do exactly the same thing. And you notice, the other thing you see is how quickly it refills. So if you imagine the blood just
Feels like
pumping
that,
into
doesn't
that,
it?
so a red blood cell starting there, be back in my lungs really quickly.
To show you what happens when your blood visits your lungs, we've got a piece of really high-tech equipment.
So we're going to use this blender.
That's my blender.
We're going to use Chris's blender to whisk oxygen into the blood. Let's see what happens.
This blood has started to form clots, so it's thick and lumpy because it's outside the body.
That's what happens to your blood when you get a cut. It reacts with the air to form a clot which glues the wound together, eventually becoming a scab.
Right, now let's make a blood shake.
By swirling it around quickly, the blender is putting oxygen into the blood.
This is what happens when you take a deep breath. The oxygen is put directly into the blood and it makes it go a bright red colour. That's great. It looks like a blood smoothie.
There's no such thing as a blood smoothie. It looks like a strawberry smoothie.
Well, it's still your blender.
Yeah, thanks for that. So we've shown you the way that blood goes from dark red with no oxygen in it to bright red and oxygenated.
And that's what's happening in your body right now. All the new red blood cells are collecting oxygen from your lungs as you breathe and delivering it to every cell in your body.
In the UK, there are hundreds of rapid response medical teams on standby.
And they need to be on the scene of an emergency in minutes.
We're going on call with the UK's emergency services, heading into the thick of the action to help save lives. Now it's Chris's turn on the front line.
This is a rapid response vehicle, and it's designed to get a paramedic to the scene of an emergency within minutes.
On call with me today is paramedic Ben White. And we've just had a new call come in.
We've just been called to a lady's fallen over and she may have dislocated her shoulder. You've got a lot of blood vessels and nerves in the armpit. If the bone here at the top of the arm pops out of the socket, it can damage all those structures. So I've got my camera, so I'm going to take you as close as I can to the action.
We arrive on the scene in just under 3.5 minutes, and we find Maxine on her bathroom floor.
So what happened this morning?
Having a shower, just finished, turned off, stepped out the shower, whoops, on the floor.
Is it a constant pain or only when you try and move it? Constant. Is it down here?
It's just all my shoulder, really.
All your shoulder?
Ben's assessing her to see if he thinks it's bruised or broken or if she's dislocated the joint. So if this bone at the top of the arm has actually come away from the other bone in the shoulder, it's in the wrong position. If that's the case, they can take it to hospital and just pop it back in with some painkillers.
What we'll do, get some pain relief out for you. Yeah. We'll see how we go on gas and air. Yeah. Might be that we need to pop a little needle in your hand, give you something a bit stronger. As well. No, yeah, if you just hold that, just take deep breaths for us. Take nice deep breaths on that, that might make...
Gas and air numbs the pain to make Maxine more comfortable while Ben checks her blood pressure. But she's still in a lot of pain, so Ben decides that Maxine needs to go to hospital for further checks, and in the meantime, he gives her some stronger painkillers through an injection.
And what's really good about this is it's not just going to make life nicer for Max, it's also going to help the doctors in hospital because reducing the pain reduces all the spasm in the shoulder and that'll make it easier for them to treat Maxine.
So we can get Maxine down onto the ambulance where we can make her comfortable for a trip up to the hospital to get it x-rayed and get it sorted.
The medical team has arrived and the crew make sure Maxine moves as little as possible as she makes her way to the ambulance.
So Max is on her way to hospital and Ben arriving really quickly and giving really good pain relief. It'll make it much easier for the doctors to treat her.
With our job done here, we get ready for the next call-out. There are rapid response teams like this all over the UK, which means that expert medical care can be with you within minutes of a serious emergency. Still to come, Xand finds out what's wrong with these body bits.
It's the size of a melon.
We show you a trick that will fool your friends.
Ooh. And I'm in theatre for some eye-opening surgery.
And now I'm going to open the skin on the surface of the eye.
Now, did you know your collarbone is the last bone to stop growing when you become an adult? It's called your clavicle, and it'll stop growing when you're about 25.
That's amazing, and so's this. Lunchtime in an ordinary street, in an ordinary town. But in this town lives an extraordinary person.
This man's name is Neil. Can you guess why he's amazing?
Does he have the loudest yodel in England? Nope. Have a look at him. Well, maybe with other people. You see, Neil's the tallest man in the UK. He's 232.6 centimetres tall. That's half a metre taller than your average British man. He wears size 15 shoes and he weighs 159 kilos. Being tall makes Neil very popular. Look at all these people. See how happy they are.
Even the traffic wardens want to be his friend. No parking tickets for Neil.
You know, my brother's 6'9", my sister's 6'3". You know, my grandfather back in the old days was, 6'7".
So it runs in the family. Hang on, these window cleaners need some help.
I'm just naturally tall.
The top of that window has never been so clean, and he didn't even break a sweat. Oh, mind your head.
Neil is unique, but as you grow, it's the bones in your legs that will make the most difference to your height as an adult. They will grow at each end, and your individual DNA will tell them how long to grow.
It's nice to be different, and if you use your differences to be an advantage, the sky's the limit.
And Neil should know he's a lot nearer the sky than we are. Now that's amazing.
Xand, no one is going to believe you're taller than Neil.
Let's head back to the emergency department to see how our patient's getting on.
Back in accident and emergency, 13-year-old Reese came into hospital with a bashed-up face after a biking accident.
I damaged my forehead and my nose and my lip there.
He'd been at a party, trying out some bike tricks, but a big slope,
A really, really big slope
caught him out, and he ended up flying over his handlebars onto his face.
Although it wasn't as bad as it looked, Reese couldn't wait for the swelling in his lip to go down.
I find it very hard to eat and everything because my tongue's very swollen.
And the doctors were also waiting so they could decide if he'd need any plastic surgery.
2 weeks later, and Reese is back for his checkup.
And I'm pleased to see his face looking, well, pretty transformed.
The swelling's gone down a lot and I can eat all my favourite food and everything.
Oh, thank goodness. I was worried about you wasting away there for a while.
Well, with the important news out of the way, let's meet Professor Simon Carley and find out if you're going to need that surgery or not.
I think that's starting to heal quite nicely, actually. The bits on your forehead really almost completely healed, haven't they?
His best chance is for his body to do all the work, to do the job that it's designed to do.
Your skin needs to be a tough barrier so it can protect you, and it's designed to repair itself constantly. All the time, new skin cells are working their way up from the bottom layer to the top, which usually takes about a month. But because Reese's injury is severe and his skin is healing, it's going to take a bit longer.
The bits down here, they're doing pretty well as well. To know what it's eventually going to completely look like, it's probably going to be about 6 months.
6 months might sound like ages, but every skin cell contains pigment, which is what gives your skin its colour. It's going to take a while for all of Reese's cells to reach the top layer and his skin colour to return to normal.
So I think you can already see, just on that patch on the forehead there, if you look in the middle parts of that, can you see how some of the pigment is already starting to come through on the inside? I suspect that when you first did that, that looked completely pink.
Yeah.
And now you're already seeing some of the pigment cells coming through.
Yeah. The doctor said that it's okay and it's healing properly. That they could see my softer skin tone developing underneath.
With Reese's skin healing well, he might not need that surgery after all.
I know there was talk about plastic surgery and stuff like that. I think at this stage, I don't think that's going to be necessary.
I'm amazed that it's healed so well, actually.
Bodies are pretty remarkable things.
I'm just relieved because I won't have to go into surgery.
You know, to be honest, you can get back on your bike pretty soon as well.
It's a good result for Reese, but just go steady on that bike.
We've got some amazing body tricks to show you.
Want to find out how to shrink someone's arm?
OK, Xand, I want you to put your fingertips together and push your arms out as far as you can in front of you, like that.
This is a great trick.
OK, now I want you to take that hand and rub it as hard as you can on this elbow. Now tell your mate, while they're doing this, that you're going to use magic powers to shorten that arm. Ooh, I'm using my arm shortening magic powers. Ooh.
Not too much magic.
OK, now straighten.
You've shortened my arm.
Exactly. Now, to get them back the same length, you simply do the opposite and rub this hand on that arm. More magic, and straighten.
Yeah, that's better.
Now, do you want to try it again?
No, I won't be able to get my hands in my pockets.
Don't be ridiculous, Xand. So, this trick works because as you rub your left arm, the muscles in the right shoulder tighten up, making your right arm look shorter. Your left arm is relaxed and completely untensed, so it looks longer. To get things back to normal, just give everything a shake. So give it a try and see if you can fool your friends.
Now we're going our separate ways to show you two amazing places, starting here in Manchester with Chris.
Right now, I'm bringing the cameras in to show you some eye surgery that is so amazing, even I've never seen it before.
You blink 17,000 times a day. When you read a book, your eye muscles move almost 170 times a minute, and the muscles you use to blink are the fastest in your body. You've got 7 muscles in the eye, and that's what we're focusing on today. And, as we've seen on Operation Ouch, there are surgeons who specialise in everything to do with the body. This is Dr. Jane Ashworth, and she's an eye specialist.
Is operating on the eye different to operating on other parts of the body?
It is, because the structures of the eye are very small and delicate, so you have to use very, very fine instruments, very, very fine needles and threads, and often you have to magnify the image.
This is Josh, who's having eye surgery today. He's had problems with his sight from birth and has had various treatments to help him see.
He's had eye patches for about a year, which brought his sight back, because Joshua lost sight in his eye at first. He only had like 20% sight. And then he had the glasses to try and bring his sight back, which have brought it back. He's now left, I think it's about 80% sight now.
But the doctors want to correct something else. Josh has a squint, and in his case, this is making his eyes move too closely together when he looks down.
If you look on this model here, these are the muscles of the eye that move the eye in different directions. And this muscle here, close to the nose, is working too well. So we're going to weaken it by moving it backwards on the eye and moving its position downwards.
Someone in your class may have a squint. You may have one yourself. And most of the time, glasses can correct it. But in Josh's case, glasses and other treatments aren't going to work, so surgery is the only option to repair the muscle around his eyes. Even though Josh's eyes are open, he is actually asleep, and he can't see or feel a thing.
To me, this is very exciting. I never saw this kind of surgery because it's so specialist. As a medical student, I didn't see it.
Look away if you're a bit squeamish.
So these first stitches that Jane's put in are so she can move the eyeball into the position so that this muscle is exposed here.
And now I'm going to open the skin on the surface of the eye in order to find the muscle.
The skin on your eyeball can heal like any other skin.
Yeah, it heals very quickly. We're just putting some stitches in to sew the muscle into a new position on the eye.
The problem that Josh had is that the muscle was too strong, moving the eye inwards and downwards. So what Jane's done is effectively make the muscle weaker.
In just 20 minutes, the first eye is done, and now Dr. Jane moves on to the next eye muscle.
Using these stitches to put the muscle into a new position now.
So coordinating your eyes together is really important. So humans have 7 muscles moving the eye, and that means you can move your eye in any direction at all. So Jane's now just sewing the skin back around the eyeball, covering the muscle, and then we're done.
And in 40 minutes, Josh returns back to the hospital ward to recover. I'm absolutely astounded at how quick this surgery happens. So, back on the ward, and Josh can't open his eyes yet. But a few weeks later, and he's back to meet Dr. Jane for a checkup.
The eyes are healing up absolutely fine, so he's done really well. So that's much better, isn't it? Before, his eyes turned right in.
Yeah, that's much better.
And it's much better than it was.
There's been a real improvement in Josh's squint after the surgery, which is great news.
So how do you feel after all that? Because you didn't want to open your eyes afterwards in hospital, did you?
No.
And then did you open your eyes that night?
No, I opened it the next day. I opened them the next day.
Josh found it a bit uncomfortable after the operation, but now he's had this amazing surgery, he's well on the road to recovery, and it means now that when he looks down, his eye muscles won't be pulling his eyes together toward his nose.
How far does your digestive system stretch? Is it A, the length of a car, B, the height of a 3-story building, or C, all the way to the moon?
In fact, the answer is B. It would stretch as high as a 3-storey building. That's 9 metres of innards all coiled up inside your body. Now Xand brings you something completely different.
I'm in a top secret location. And it's so top secret, I'm not even allowed to mention its name. But in here is a special medical collection of human body parts. And I've been allowed exclusive access to show you some of the ways the human body can go wrong.
These two things are human hearts. This one is a normal human heart. Now it's been opened up so that you can see inside, but if you put it back together, it will be about the size of a large apple.
That's what's inside me and you. But this heart is much bigger.
Now, the man who this heart belonged to had a rare disease which made some of the tissues in his body weaker, so they stretched like his heart and his blood vessels, and that's why his heart's got so big. Imagine having this inside your chest. It's the size of a melon.
You'd definitely notice it. This guy would have had a pounding heartbeat.
Boom, boom, boom. You'd actually be able to see his chest wall moving with each massive beat. You'd probably have been able to see the blood washing up into his neck, so his neck would have been expanding and almost flapping with each heartbeat. And in the end, this man's heart getting so big and his blood vessels got so weak, that's what killed him.
This is another organ that's gone wrong. It's a human liver, and there's something very strange about it.
What do you think these are? They're worms. Giant intestinal roundworms, and they were living in this person's body when they died. Now, the person that this liver belonged to would have been ill. They'd have been bright yellow for a start because their liver was all blocked up, and in fact there might have been so many worms that they blocked their gut. They'd have lost weight, and ultimately this infection probably would have killed them.
But bones can go wrong too.
In the lower half of your leg, you've got 2 bones. The tibia, which is here, that's your shin bone, and then a smaller bone off to the side, the fibula, that one there. It's easy to break these, and it's quite common. Footballers do it, skiers do it. You probably know someone yourself who's done it. And it's also quite easy to fix this usually. Doctors will pull the leg straight, put it in a plaster cast, and you can be almost as good as new in a few weeks. But what happens if you don't have a plaster cast? But take a look at this. This person broke their leg 200 years ago and they didn't see a doctor. Now, it's a terrible break. He would have been in terrible pain and he would have had a very bad limp. But what's incredible about this is the bone has actually regrown and tried to fix itself. So we know from that this guy lived probably for several years after his injury. Amazing.
In the accident and emergency department, the team are ready for their next case.
Let's meet him. 6-year-old Rio has come to accident and emergency with a little problem on his hands.
I've got a poorly finger.
Oh yeah, that is a problem.
And it's a bit strange.
It does look pretty odd. So how on earth did that finger end up like that?
Rio has lots of hobbies.
That's him, Thai boxing.
But as well as the usual activities, he has another favourite pastime. Picking the skin around his nails.
He picks in the morning.
He picks in the evening.
He even picks in the bathtub.
But as he's been picking away, germs have crept in under the skin. That's those green things.
Lots of them, aren't there?
Yep, and so his finger became infected and it swelled up. Ouch.
It comes all white when you pick it a bit more.
Time to stop picking at it, Rio. Let's get Professor Simon Carley in to get to the bottom of it.
Follow this way. Let's follow the finger.
Well, there goes the finger. Rio's just going to have to follow.
And can I have a quick look? Do you bite your nails?
No, I pick them.
You pick them?
He certainly does.
So you see all this yellow stuff? That's where it's got a little infection there, so it's going to make it sore. I think we can make that a little bit better for you by letting some of that out. Would that be all right?
Cut it out, Doctor.
That's a bit rude.
No, really, cut it out. Let the pus out.
Sounds drastic, but that pus needs removing.
But first, let's give him some of this. gas and air. It's made up of a mixture of oxygen and nitrous oxide. As you breathe it in, the gas numbs the pain receptors in your brain, meaning things hurt less and gives you a laugh along the way.
You got the giggles.
With Rio looking nice and relaxed, Professor Simon can get to work. Now, if you're squeamish, get ready to look away, because we're gonna release the pus. And look away now. Okay, here we go. And he's in. Oh, there goes some pus. Okay, all clear. This might all seem a bit grim, but if Rio's abscess was left untreated, it could get worse and worse and could burst or even damage the bone.
So what we've got there is all of that pus was trapped under there.
And now it's out, Professor Simon removes that infected skin.
So all that badness now, which was underneath here, is out. So all we do now is give that a clean, put a dressing on it, and it'll heal up really nicely.
He said not yet, Reggie. But one rather large bandage later, and he's on his way home.
And what's the moral of the story?
I can't quite put my finger on it.
Oh dear. Rio?
Don't pick your nails or your fingers.
Bingo.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye.
Time to go, Rio.